Hello guys, it's me, Obli. I'm back with another video. So this one's a little bit more of like a raw video. I'm doing a 13 mists and we're going to run through the entire video together. I'm going to do sort of like an open commentary over the video. Talk about what I'm doing, my rotation and things like that, cooldowns. I'm running double on use. Breath build, not shatter build. Shatter's just not really good enough. Breath is still king. Right, so we're going into this pack here. No, I don't really find that there's much point really casting anything before the pull, before the actual key starts, because you don't really carry much of that over. It's really minor. In some keys you might be able to get away with like an extra 10 runic power, but not in this one. So here we go, going in. So opening up with A-bomb, targeting the harvester, just because I don't know how good the kicks will be, and I feel like that'll be a bit more deadly. Bursting with the double on use, go ahead with the transmitter first, just because it's a bigger trinket, it'll do more damage. Casting Frostwind's Fury there with as many buffs as physically possible up. I wanted to find a nice position as well, just to make sure that all of my frontal abilities cleave everything. The pack dies really fast. Get a Remorseless Winter refresh there, and then I double up on the D&D here. So killing these last few things. Don't really want to target the villager with Soul Reaper or Reaper's Mark or anything like that, just because its execute phase is quite short. It will phase pretty soon here, and obviously the execute abilities will kind of just be wasted on this guy. Cool. Right. Going on to the next pack, we mind smooth that one. We actually mind soothe the other two here, so we can get the buffs before we actually attack the pack. Just waiting to do that. Fucking amount was too big to even get through there. Cool. So we get the green one for the additional stats, the damaging stats. So this time we're going to target the Soul Cleaver, just because that's a more deadly mob in this pack in comparison to the other one. We're still going to do a lot of damage with our pillar window here. We're dropping all of the buffs, so making sure that our Remorseless and our Death Decay is done first before we do pillar and Reaper. I'm kind of just focusing on spamming Obliterate as much as possible here. I want to ideally refresh Remorseless Winter at 10 stacks if I can, but I did not. So there we go. So I could have done a double D&D here. I think I decided not to because I wanted to have that second D&D for the big boys coming up. Here we go. So we chain into here. So I have 2 stacks of D&D. I use one. It later on does kind of bite me in the arse. I do have breath rolling now, so ideally I'd want both of those D&D stacks to go to chain back to back with breath, but we open up normally with as many stats as possible. We've got Bone Grinder, managed to 5-stack the Bone Grinder just with burst as well, so that's fantastic. Now I do miss the A-bomb limb cast. I'm thinking about it here, and I kind of think, oh, okay, now do you know what, I'm just going to save it for the boss, for when the boss has two targets. So I managed to just get that 10-stack Remorseless Winter off, which is fantastic. That's good damage. To restack your Remorseless Winter is quite long. Takes quite a while. If you're not in your burst as well, your burst is just rolled off. So the empowering weapon just rolled off there. It takes a long time to get that back up. So I might be able to get one more off. Bush. Got another 10 stack of Remorseless off there. So that's good AoE there. Realistically, I'm not doing AoE with anything else because my Death Decay is down. So I'm literally relying on like Glacial Advance, Rhyme, the AoE that comes off Rhyme, and Remorseless Winter. So to get the 10 stacks refresh is really big. Okay. So going into the boss now, I'm going to spend my 45 second cooldowns at the start and then whack a D&D down as well for some free cleave damage. It's at the cost of 1 rune. It really is worth it, even though there is a damage amp on the boss. It is still worth putting that D&D down and getting all that cleave out, because we cleave so high without actually needing to press a lot of our cooldowns. As soon as the boss gets Dark Embrace, that's when you want to stop D&Ding. I don't really find that D&D is really worth doing during the damage amp of the boss phase. Anyway, you only really want to use D&D just to spend your last rune before you do a breath. So, yeah, I don't really feel it's worth it. Shaman didn't get the Tremor Totem off there, which is super annoying, but we still move. I could have saved one of my cooldowns for it, but I didn't. It's okay. So now I'm looking at the boss's HP. I'm thinking, okay, 40%. It's going down quite quick. We're probably going to get to the next phase quite quickly. The boss has casted Embrace Darkness now, which reduces damage taken by 99%, and therefore 90%. Is it 99? Anyway, reduces it down, and therefore that's why I don't actually cast D&D again. I'm kind of setting up on the boss a little bit, even though the damage is not really quite there, because I know that the other guys will drop the boss down. Here we go, send absolutely everything, and I want to send Bifrost and Fury, but I want to make sure I'm sending that with as many buffs rolling as possible. So there I managed to have a weapon enchant, pillar, and 5-stack bone grinder all going at once, which is good. So do a lot of damage there. We jump straight up to 3 mil. Refresh the Remorseless. Now back to cleaving because the boss has lost its debuff, but we go back main target Droman. Now I'm still breathing on Droman, so there's still a lot of damage being done on that guy. Now the boss, it's low, but the Droman is still quite high, and in my head I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to probably need to pop here to get him down to 20%, otherwise the other guys are not going to pop. But I think in this scenario, they are actually probably thinking the same thing, and they do end up doing damage. So the Shaman's DPS is rolling down slowly, but I think it was definitely worth doing that just to get it down sooner. Otherwise, we could have been waiting there for forever, and that's the most dangerous part of the fight as well. It's just better to just get us out. Somebody could have died there and wiped the key. Now, I don't know who's really popping cooldowns here, but it certainly isn't me. The Shaman their DPS seems to be rising, but I think in this phase it's taking extra damage. That's kind of bound to happen. That's why you quite like Soul Reaper on this dungeon. There's quite a few instances where you can actually use Soul Reaper nicely. We actually don't kill it during the phase, but that's okay. I'm not going to pop any cooldowns now. The boss is literally on 0% HP. That's fine. Okay, so moving into the next pack now. I have Breath, it's coming back, but I don't think it's really worth using it. I think I'm just going to keep my Breath and just use my 45-second cooldowns, because I still had 5 seconds as well that I needed to wait for. If I waited those 5 seconds, that would have these mobs would have had a lot of their HP already gone. It would have realistically been a waste. So I'm going to save that and just use Pillar and just use Reaper's Mark as well as a Death and Decay charge and a Remorseless charge. But because Breath is going to be the next pack, I really want to have 2 Death and Decay charges for that, so I'm not going to really spend another one. Also, the mobs are dying quite quickly, and I wouldn't get a full value of D&D, so no point spending it again. There we go, mob is dead now. The tank does actually fuck this up here. Don't know why. When the priest already opened the gate, but that does cost me my buffs. So in this maze, I am looking to try and refresh my buffs, my 5 OC Talon, any Bone Grinder buffs that I might have. I want to try and refresh, but the dream is dead right now. So going into this pack, doing a full burst here, but sadly the Elemental Shaman has all of their cooldowns, so they will absolutely nuke this pack. I even used a potion on this pack too. I did that because I saw that Frostman's Fury is coming back, and I thought, okay, I'm going to have a lot of buffs rolling here. I can do Frostman's Fury too. I don't actually manage to get as many buffs as I'd quite like, so I don't get the 5-stack of Bone Grinder, but Pillar was running out quite quickly. There was a lot of things pushing me away from the pack, so I couldn't stack it as fast as I'd like, and therefore I just sent Frostman's Fury at a time where I felt it was comfortable. Okay, so it'll kind of be a bit of a repeat here. So we're looking to just spend... So I spent 1 Death and Decay charge, but realistically maybe I should have kept that one. My thinking here was I was probably going to send my cooldowns mid-pack here, and I could have at least 1 charge. Annoyingly, I don't have the runes to send Reaper when I want to. That's okay. Still going to send it anyway. It's better to just get those cooldowns off cooldown. I'm not Soul Reapering anything here. I just don't feel like there's much value to actually do that. I do end up... I'm looking at the HP of the mobs here, and I do actually send Death and Decay because of that. Looking at my own HP there, I stood in some shit, and I shouldn't have. Alright, so getting to the end of this. Got PI. We've got 2 priests, so obviously getting PI is quite nice. I've got 2 stacks. When I get 2 stacks of Killing Machine, I'm really looking to spend those stacks as soon as possible. When I have Death and Decay down, I'm focusing a lot on just obliterating as much as possible. Sadly, I lose all my buffs here. If the tank was a little bit quicker, I could have kept my Icy Talons maybe. Going into this, 20 seconds until Breath. I'm not waiting for 20 seconds. You make Breath waits for Pillar and Reaper, not the other way around. Let's go in. Oh, I see a cast go off there and I think, oh, maybe I'll go for that one. But I'd already targeted the tender because I'd already in my mind thought, okay, I'm going to get that one. Right, so we're still doing decent damage here. We don't have that additional Death and Decay charge, and that has actually been a knock-on effect from earlier. Ideally, it'd be quite nice to have it now, because there's not much other AoE that I'm doing other than a tiny weeny Remorsus. So I could send Breath here for these 2 mobs, but realistically they will die quite quick. The pool there, with the little trick with the pool is it won't do damage to you instantly, but it will do a lot of damage if you do stand in it too long. So I do test the waters with that quite often. I think here I probably could be sending Soul Reapers a little bit more. But when I've got Remorseless Winter going, I'm really focusing way more on Obliterate, because Obliterate feeds it 2 runes per global. That's increasing the damage it's doing by a lot, and Remorseless Winter does do a lot of damage. Next mob here is the Matriarch, and I know by what's the word? I know from muscle memory that this cast of breath will always be on just one singular mob. If I saved my breath there, or if I used it earlier, I know that nobody else is realistically going to pop on this mob. It's going to have to be me. To be the team player there, it has to be me. I don't know if you caught that, but I actually used AMS and AMS and IBF to try and soak that breath last minute. I wasn't going to do it at the start, but then I kind of went, oh yeah, go on then. Missed it, didn't soak it, breath dropped. Always be looking out for things you can soak with AMS to keep your breath alive. So here, we use Trinket, we use Reaper, we use Pillar, we use Breath, we use Empowering Weapon, we use Racial. Didn't use A-Bomb Limb though. A-Bomb Limb does such a poor amount of damage on a single target, I just felt that that was actually probably worth keeping. Okay, so I've got my cooldowns, my mini cooldowns back now. I'm not going to bother with that. This is one singular big mob, and therefore that's enough for me to Soul Reaper it. Soul Reaper will do enough damage to actually warrant that, and it's still alive. The main thing with Soul Reaper is, will this mob stay alive when it casts go off? Am I cucking myself with anything else by spending this rune? If both answers, if the health of the mob is high enough, and the answer to the latter question is no, go ahead. All right, so that's dead. Even though I actually used my cooldowns, I think everybody else halfway through that decided actually, yeah, probably I should use mine too. Now, however, I have nothing. I just have my 45 seconds. To be fair, that's not nothing. That is actually still quite a good amount. So I'm looking to get my burst off as soon as possible because I don't want it to accidentally trigger my transmitter. I want it to be the Scarm Shard because I have a macro. What I'm trying to do now is spam Obliterate as much as I can to buff up my Frostworm Fury as much as I can. I did not believe that I would get the full stack there, so I just didn't. I just sent it a little bit too early. Right. So with the buffs that are rolling now, we have D&D down, we have Remorseless down. It's so important for me to be just getting those Obliterates out because they're cleaving and they're adding the damage to Remorseless. And when they're killing machines, they're also doing glacial advances, which is good AoE too. So I'm focusing on that a lot more. I don't really care that much about the runic power and if I overcap because I'm waiting between pulls. Different scenarios mean that I overcap anyway. It's not that important to me. Right, now we go into the boss. So, pulled it, used our major cooldowns here, and there's a slight error. The dog, or the fox, is about to spawn, and it would be my best interest to have my Frostwhelp hit that dog and get the additional 8% mastery off it. Now, all of my buffs are pretty much gone now. I do manage to get a Remorseless refresh, which is super. But because I did it a little bit late, my burst is basically 8% weaker. I put D&D down there, and I make sure I'm facing the dog because I was worried that maybe the dog could get freed and then maybe stun us. And if I can kill it quick enough so that it's not going to be an issue, then I definitely want to do that. I've got 2 stacks of Obliterate waiting. We're looking for the target. That's what we're doing. Found it. Pop it down, and I'm going to use all my burst on this because this is a particularly damaging part of the fight. If you look at the raid frames now, you can see that all of my party are taking quite a lot of damage. Obviously, being a DK takes slightly less than everyone else's, but some people are almost dead. After this, I think to myself, all right, I have AMZ. I forgot about that. I want to make sure that I cast that on the next thing. Also, if you're the healer is probably now thinking, oh shit, I'm going to need to actually prepare for the next time this happens. All right, so we're just trying to avoid the dog. I gave it a little chains of ice just to be nice. That rhymes. I'm refreshing Remorseless so that the Everfrost debuff doesn't drop. The 10 stack debuff that's on the Mistcaller right now. Now, this is... I know the error of my ways, and I realise, oh, I should be frost whelping the dog. So coming up now, when I actually do finally send my burst, I'm waiting for Remorseless to come back. I send it on the dog, so I get the 2 stack. If I really wanted to, I would have D&D'd that, but there's no point. Get a strange lust here. Don't really know why we're lusting here. I think it's for the guessing game. It ends up being quite a valuable lust. Quickly find it. There's a dog next to it. Okay, what am I going to do? Just going to fight it. Just going to fight it normally. I don't have pillar. I don't really want to send breath this early, though sometimes you can send breath a little bit early. Luckily, someone else absolutely ruined that ad. Get PI at a really annoying time. Would have much rather get this PI literally 10 seconds later. That would have been fab. Didn't, however. Okay, so I press Soul Reaper before I do my full burst, just because I don't want to use one of my globals in my full burst casting Soul Reaper. I'd much rather it explode during. So I think I cast Soul Reaper once during the burst, but I got 2 explosions off, which is good. I'm looking to refresh Remorseless now. Get it. Fantastic. Really wanted to push that 2%. Sadly not. I think it's the Shadow Priest realistically letting us down. I still got breath rolling. I used AMS to give me some extra runic power here because this is a really magic intensive phase. So I end up having something like a 38-second breath because of that. Well good. Boss is about to die. Not going to cast anything else because the boss is about to die. Great stuff. Right, so on to the next part. So we're looking good, very good for time. We're looking so good for time, and it's a 13 as well, which is good. As we jump down, make sure you don't not on any big mounts because you can actually kill yourself with those big mounts. I learned that the hard way with my Mythic Nubrar Palace mount. So this is something that's a bit annoying. So always in pugs, they will do the Staghorn, this pack on its own. And that's what I say, that's what my cooldowns were perfectly aligned for. I had Remorseless Winter, Reaper and Pillar all ready for just that small go. And once that small go was done, I would have had my breath and everything to do the normal double pull. Sadly, not. I AMS the Acid Nova there because it does a lot of damage and it's magic damage. Help your healer out if you can. I do my little small go, do as much as I can. This is popped with the Scarm Shard, so I don't have to worry about doing the mini game. Do a double back-to-back D&D. Really important to get D&D off here. I don't get the refresh on Remorseless, but I will cast it as soon as I physically can. Because I have as well the frost damage ultra buff from Bone Grinder, even more imperative to cast Remorseless Winter. Right, so the pack is kind of coming to an end here. I don't really think it's worth doing another D&D because I have Breath and I have a big pack next. Annoyingly, the shields went off. Also, if the shields didn't go off, if somebody actually managed to interrupt that, we wouldn't have had that big acid explosion. I think everybody's sort of holding a little bit here. I definitely am, so that's why the pack isn't dying as fast, but for good reason. I really wanted to get that 5 stack of Bone Grinder back, but didn't really get it, which means I have to rebuff that whole thing, which is really annoying. But I absolutely ghost town on this pack, so that's fine. So here, I've already dotted everything up. Exterminate is doing the job for me to re-dot everything. So I'm just spamming Obliterate. I'm getting as many of these Obliterates off. My main focus here is if I'm not gaining a killing machine, then I'm spending one. Or if I can't gain one or I can't spend one, then I'm doing an ability that might give me a rune so that I can do the latter. Absolutely go to town on that pack. Big deeps. Alright. So moving into the next one, I lose my 5 stack of Bone Grinder again. Very unlucky. So I'm looking at my cooldowns, I'm seeing what I've got. I want to spend all my runic power so that I have a full 6 runes as much as possible. Going in. And my Icy Talons was about to drop off. Luckily I managed to keep it. Here I kind of just wanted to get Frost and Fury just out on as many targets as possible because for every target that you have alive obviously it's an additional 100% damage. So I really wanted to get that out as soon as possible. I wasn't really too worried about the buffs. I mean the Shaman does all the damage anyway. I mean 4 million damage with as little cooldowns for your little cooldowns is still really good. So don't let anybody tell you that Frost is a wet noodle outside of Breath. You just can't compete with that Shaman damage. What is that? Alright, so moving into this small little pack here. I think it would just be these 4 mobs that we end up pulling. So I will do my little burst here. I've got one. I think I realistically should have paired that D&D charge with Pillar and Breath a little bit sooner, or a little bit closer together even, because I do sort of. I think I'm short by 2 seconds. There you go. So that's when it actually runs off. So the only AoE I'm doing right now is when I spend my Killing Machine. I do the Glacial Advance until I get my Remorseless back, and now I've got my Remorseless back. I'm focusing a little bit more on trying to obliterate, trying to build it up, trying to extend it. Using AMS for the Volatile Acid so that I don't get the debuff and I can just walk and DPS freely. Sometimes I like to think about my my defensive cooldowns as offensive cooldowns if it means that I can do damage more easily. Alright, so we're going to do the last couple of bits of trash before we pull the boss. I have Breath now. I'm spending a little bit of my runic power just to get 1 stack. And now I do a full go. Now it slipped my mind that I had the rhyme there to dot up all the mobs, but in my mind I was also thinking that the mobs are probably not going to survive that quick. All the smaller ones, so it wasn't too imperative for me to do that. The green shit on the ground really does hurt. Looking to refresh that Remorseless, get as many obliterates while D&D is down as possible. That's quite a fair amount of damage there. If I was a little bit more clued up on what pack we were doing next, maybe I would have been able to extend that breath and fight those mobs a little bit earlier. That's all good. So now I'm looking at what's coming back. I have Abram Limb, I have Remorseless, now I have PI, and I have 1 stack of D&D. So I'm thinking, okay, I could do a little bit of damage here. I think by the time D&D is finished, I'll have another charge. So maybe if the mobs are still alive, I can do that second charge. Kind of a little. I'm rushing around. I do end up doing the second D&D charge there. I've got 1 more stack, 1 more second of Bone Grinder, and I had Killing Machine proc there. That would be more beneficial for me to spend that cleaving Killing Machine proc, as the Killing Machine proc makes obliterate frost damage, as opposed to reapplying Remorseless Winter. I may as well have just done the Remorseless Winter after the buff drops off, so that I could take full advantage, because Remorseless Winter wouldn't have taken much advantage of that at all. Alright, so we're pulling the final boss now. Looking at the timers, I'm seeing ads spawning very soon, and for every 1 ad that comes, I can get an additional 8% mastery off of them. So I hold my pillar, do my Remorseless, D&D. I should have held a few more runes here. I do actually do my whelp a little bit early because I wasn't too sure if they would actually stack up and I get the full value. They died actually before even 4 of them were stacked, so I just sent it there. Using AMS to stop the mind link, so I can just freely attack the boss without having to worry about the damage or doing the mechanic. And then I use Death's Advance to prevent myself from being pulled in, so I can walk away quite nicely. Here we've got more ads, but I don't have any real cooldowns available. I do have my breath, but I don't really want to use my breath right now without my pillar. Now, if Pillar and Reaper were a bit more aligned, then possibly, but I just didn't feel like it. Now, I do later learn that this is a mistake, and I should realistically have burst right now, because in Consumption, you need to get the shield down in order for the phase to end, and this phase does a lot of damage. So I'm not really playing my part here because I wanted to keep my cooldowns because I thought ads were coming. I also lose a 5-stack Bone Grinder as karma because of that. This means that if I'd have pressed my cooldowns beforehand, I could have had a fully stacked Giga buff for my burst. Stacking on the tank there just to condense all of the mechanics. Now ads are spawning, so I'm going to preemptively A-bomb them so I can get them together as soon as they get to me. Got a few seconds of A-bomb them left, but it ends up only really grepping 1. I try to aim myself in a position where I can actually get a few more than just 2 frost drop stacks, but I don't. I then use AMS to stop myself from getting the mechanic. If I had that mechanic, maybe I'd have to run away from the boss and I wouldn't be able to actually do my burst, and that would be a bigger DPS loss than anything else I could have done. I'm just looking at keeping breath alive right now. I'm ignoring the Rhyme proc. I have nothing that I can really cast. I mistakenly cast Death and Decay, and I should have casted Remorseless Winter there to refresh it, and it would have been a lot easier killing these lava with a 10 stack Remorseless. However, I still have a relatively good stack when I'm helping the healer out there. Is that the healer? I believe that is the healer. I give up after a while. As soon as my pillar comes back and I cast it on the lava and get a 4 stack, I give up and run straight back to the boss, cast from Reaper's Mark on it, and just get the pop in the pillar. But the sad thing is I won't get my Exterminates in pillar. However, I do get them in the Enduring Strength phase. I'm now casting Soul Reaper on the boss here. Now with the Bone Grinder 20%, the cleave damage the Killing Machine does on that many additional targets is quite big. So I'm looking at trying to do that. As this boss has quite a large health pool, Soul Reaper is quite nice for this dungeon. So I cast Remorseless Winter a little bit too early there. I was paying attention more to the timers than the boss HP, looking at when the ads would spawn for my pillar, and I really should have done that a little bit earlier. I also had to stand in that shit because I triggered my trinket, and I didn't realise it was going to be the transmitter, and because of that I had to stand in the shit. But there we go. So that is plus 13 missed. Ended up on 2.1 million damage overall. I think if the tank had maybe pulled a little bit better, it could have ended up a little bit better, but that will still do. Thanks very much for watching, guys. If you want to head over to my Twitch to watch more live gameplay, I always stream my raids, sometimes my Mythic Plus. Subscribe. Thank you very much. Cheers.